All right, started.
All right.
Who wants to start?
I'll start.
All right.
I'll the question also. All right. So number one, most family members know how to communicate effectively. They just don't take the time to practice what they know. I'm gonna say I disagree with this a little bit. I mean, I do agree, but I also disagree. I say I wouldn't say most family members know how to communicate effectively. Some, like, it just depends really on the thing too. Because, oh my goodness, my dog, sorry about that. So like, I don't know, I don't think all family members know how to communicate effectively, just because it's just a thing that you have to be able to do by yourself in general.
Right. Like when people try to, it just depends on how the family does it. Like if
Yeah.
they're communication type family or just like kind of physical type stuff, you know?
And if you're close to them, or if
Right.
that's what
Kind of comes down to the, even though they're family, you don't treat your family like friends and stuff like that because they're family.
yeah.
Yeah, and a little bit on that. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on disagreeing about it. I mean, it also depends on like upbringing, because a lot of families, when they're growing up, they really don't have a whole lot of communication that goes into when you get your own family. There's not a very good, healthy form of communication there either.
Right, because there's like discipline and stuff like that involved, and kind of like family wise stuff like that. All right, so we're gonna put for disagree for number one. I'll do number two. Family conflict is a symptom rather than a cause of deteriorating family relationships. I don't think that's. I disagree with that because conflict is it just could happen over anything. Just like how your mentality is for how you treat your family or how much you love your family. I think it's kind of a conflict is not really a symptom for me because it could happen over what like food on the like food could happen over chores or it could happen over anything for me.
Yeah.
And it's not because of like a deteriorating family relationship.
Yeah, I agree with you with disagree. I wouldn't say it's a symptom at all, because it could be a lot of things that can make conflict, and a lot of serious things too that can make family conflict difficult. And I wouldn't want to call it a symptom. But it's just a lot of things that can cause conflict and just cause it like families to separate from each other.
Yeah, that's usually on the extreme side of things if they don't know how to kind of cope with their conflict and then don't talk it out pretty much.
And a little bit on that. There's also like healthy conflict, talking about how you feel, because without agreement, you can't get over that. So there's always going to be some kind of conflict in between relationships.
Yeah, just mutual type stuff when it comes to family.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I'll do number three then. Family conflict is harmful to family harmony. Conflict should be avoided as much as possible. I want to say disagree because of what we talked about earlier.
Right.
But because there's healthy conflict, but at the same time, some conflict can be pretty harmful to family harmony.
Yeah.
So what are your goals?
I think it comes down like to the question we had earlier on one of the assignments for chapter 10, I think it was, about like conflict. It's just, I think conflict in general is bad, but there's no really way to say what's a healthy conflict and what's a bad conflict really. Because because our argument could be a conflict as well, like, or arguing over what you think is better. Like in soccer, you could say this guy's better than the other guy. It's kind of hard to like kind of say what type of conflict it is, if it's a healthy or not. So I'll say disagree because it's not conflict. It's not there. It's just different forms of conflict that you could say that is if it's harmful or not to like the harmony of a family or not. So
yeah, also don't think that you should avoid, like, yeah, if you don't feel like you can talk about it, like have a conversation with somebody about the conflict, then yeah, I'd say like avoid it like for that day. But I wouldn't say you want to avoid it to where like you just never talk about it either, because then
Right.
it worse and it just adds on to more conflict.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if the family doesn't know how to speak.
Yeah, or communicate with each
Right.
other.
Right.
All right, so number 4. So most families conflict occurs because we don't understand the family or the other family member and we fail to communicate effectively. Um I would say I agree with this a little bit. Especially at like young ages for parents and you could say teens or like their kids. A lot of it I would say conflict occurs because they don't really, like the parent could say they don't understand what the kid's going through school or with their friends or something like that. And when the kid tries to tell them or talk to them about it, they don't really they're like listening and stuff isn't there, or they don't understand. Excuse me. And then it's just like the communication in the two is just not where it should be for where they can both understand on both parts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say that I agree with you on that answer because conflict just nobody really knows what you're going through and stuff like that. Like unless you actually speak about it, or unless you're very good when it comes to like nonverbal communications with family members. I think it's just kind of hard, and it does occur without somebody else knowing.
Yeah.
Somebody could be like less speaking when it comes to like I'll give an example of bullying. Like when most people get bullied, they don't like speaking about it,
Yeah.
as it just kind of like affects you, and people might see you differently a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it comes down to, just having that healthy communication. Like it's, that, like I said, that there is a decent form where conflict needs to come into play to discuss like what your differences are and go about it in a healthy manner instead of, raising your voice or using some, more outward expression of your feelings. I mean, you can have a rational form of communication. And so
Yeah.
you can avoid like a harsh conflict. It could be a healthy conflict where you're just talking about your differences and your feelings.
Yeah. All right. For family, number 5, families functions best if there's one leader of the family. Uh, in my opinion, I think I'll have to pretty much disagree because when it comes down to family, it's just everybody's a pillar for themselves. The dad just kind of brings everybody together, but it doesn't mean he's like the leader of the family. He just brings the bread to the table, or the mom could bring the bread to the family. It just comes down to like each pillar supporting each other, in a sense.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree with you saying that. I disagree with that. Because at family functions, yeah, usually a lot of people, like for my family, we usually always go to my grandma's house, but it's just because it's easier for her. Like when we all go over there,
Right.
and it's for everyone else. But to say that it's like the function is best if there's one person like leading the whole thing, or like one leader of the family. I don't like how that's kind of worded a little
Right.
bit. It just makes it sound like one person's carrying this family where it's not like where there's going to be like no conflict.
Yeah, it's kind of
So
like a kingly relationship
yeah,
type stuff.
yeah. So like I don't know. I don't like how it's worded, so I'm gonna disagree with it because I don't think one person brings the whole family together. It's
Right.
just just with your different family members that are closer and some that are more far apart.
Right.
So to say that one person is like makes it best, then I don't know. I just disagree with that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna agree with you there with the weird wording. And yeah, like it makes it sound like there's one person that's holding all the way of the family, that's literally keeping it together. And if one guy's doing like all the work, that's not a very healthy family. And a family is
Right.
supposed to support each other, like you were saying. They're supposed to support each other and hold that weight together, because they're going to do it all as a family. Not one person's going to take it all.
Yeah.
So number 6, it talks about ineffective communication is the single most important cause of family conflict, divorce, and family tension. I'm gonna say that I agree with that, because a lot of what happens between families is because of a lack of communication. Most divorcees are like, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, but you never even talked about it. You never let it made known that, hey, this is something that was actually bothering you, which, and then it's too late to do it, because you're already laying out the divorce papers. You bottled it and you decide not to communicate your feelings about that thing or something, which led to where a lot of divorcees are.
Right. You said you disagreed, right? Sorry about that.
I said I agreed.
Oh yeah. When it comes to like communications, like it could be one thing, like let's say there's an argument with somebody you don't like, and then let's say your brother or sister doesn't like that comment. It could stem from there and just kind of like back and forth until like the relationship kind of like disappears, and it becomes more of like anger instead of like trying to communicate with each other on a stalemate. It comes kind of down to that communication. If it's not a good communication, like he just kind of lashes out at somebody, it's not good. And like that comes down to like, again, the communication being the issue of the whole conflict.
Yeah, I agree with what both of y'all said. Because even in like, you could say in a like just a relationship that just started and stuff, most people end up like just breaking up or getting a divorce because they just don't talk to each other. They don't like communicate something that's wrong with them. Instead, they'll communicate with their best friend or like their family member about the situation, but they won't go to their significant other about the
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
And it never gets solved because you're not talking about the problem with the person that the problem is about.
Right.
Going to somebody else that has no idea what the issue is.
Yeah, kind of involving a third party pretty much.
Yeah. All right. So number 7, in a family, nonverbal communication, facial expression, eye contact, tone of voice, posture, and so on is more important than verbal communication. What you do is more important than what you say. I'm gonna say I disagree with this. Just like in my family wise, I'm gonna disagree because like knowing your family and stuff, I don't think like you'll see the tendencies that they like to do. Like you'll see their body posture and stuff, and that. And since they're family, it's not like it's not meant in a disrespectful way or like I don't care what you got to say. It's just how they are. And but like what you say is definitely like if they say something like like what they're trying to say, instead of saying they're slouching when they're at the dinner table or something, but they always slouch at the dinner table. Then they'll like saying something rude or disrespectful or them being sarcastic like about the situation. I don't know. I'd say I disagree with this because with family you understand them better and you know how they are, instead of like when it comes to like visual cues instead of like verbal cues that they say.
Right. I agree with you because like on the disagreeing, because it kind of, in my opinion, goes both have a like a very important part of it. Like communication and nonverbal is kind of like key for like talking in general and communicating with family. So I don't think one has more importance of the other, and I think it's more of a like they're both needed together at the same time, kind of when it comes to communication. with like family, especially because again, what you said, everybody knows like you already know he's gonna like how he acts, how he functions, how he speaks. If it's like it could be either in this disrespectful way or it can be like in friendly banter with each other that just doesn't really affect your like communication and like it comes down to like knowing your family's habits and stuff like that. So communication like with verbal and non-verbal communication, I think I disagree because they both go hand in hand and one is not important, more important over the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I disagree as well because it's important to have that balance of nonverbal and verbal communication, especially when it comes to family. And this person could just be having like a really bad day, and then his nonverbal cues. I mean, looks like it, but verbally he's like, yeah, it's all good, but he might be having like just like the worst day of his life, and he's just like depressed or down, or could be downright angry about something.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like not always your actions speak louder than your words, but your words can sometimes, it's like, it's just something you don't want to talk about, or
Right.
you can't just take just nonverbal cues to translate that into just how they are and what they're like. It's just
Right.
not a way to go about it.
Right. And we'll go on to number 8. It is sometimes necessary to ignore the feelings of others in order to reach a family decision. Yeah, I don't. It's kind of this one's a hard question, really.
For real.
I kind of have to disagree because since it's family, you always try to reach what you guys want and like everybody wants, unless it's a family where the children are kind of like younger. Because like when it comes down to like moving away for a better job, I using that as an example because the child won't have pretty much of a say because he's he's young and he can adapt really easily. Unlike let's say you're going away, a family moves away because of college and one of them has to stay. It kind of comes down to like the circumstances of if everybody benefits, not just portions of the family benefits really. So I'm gonna have to disagree with that, and that everybody should benefit and not just one like couple family members benefit and one just kind of like stagnates somewhere else.
Yeah, I'll agree. Yeah, I'll agree with you because this is a tough thing because sometimes depending on like the argument or the decision as yeah, one person's probably gonna have to take the like or like just one person's side is just gonna have to get ignored in some cases, not all the cases, but usually you don't want to do that. Like you want to find the middle ground to where everyone can agree and everyone's opinion is in there, and then once you like, and it's just better also, so then it creates less conflicts because everyone's opinion in a decision matters instead of just one person's over the other.
Right.
I would, yeah. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of this hard question, it's definitely hard to ignore someone's feelings, especially if they're a family member. And I think it's sometimes hard to find a middle ground, especially in certain cases.
Yeah.
But I want to say I wouldn't say it's like I said, the question's a little weird because it says sometimes necessary. I don't think it's necessary to ignore someone's feelings. So I'm gonna have to say I disagree with it because of it says necessary.
Yeah.
But I mean, in conflicts or talking about decisions, I think especially if there's an opposite opinion, sometimes someone's feelings is going to have to, be ignored, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. It's important to keep what your family wants. It's important to keep your family happy, but it's like, are you happy in your position? Like we were talking about with the jobs.
Right.
Like, are you like sure in this job you're supporting your family, but it's like if your family's like provided for by also by your significant other, like wouldn't it be all right if you went and got like a different job or something that made you a little bit more happy? Or
Yeah.
would you want to stay in that other, that crappy job?
Yeah, that example you gave can also come back to the other question where it said where one person is like the leader while the other is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, you both like they both provide for each other, then that's not really a one leader type family, and it doesn't function best. It all depends on the family, really. You could say
Yeah.
that as the thing as well.
Yeah.
All right. So number 9, the best way to love your spouse is to care more for him or her than you care for yourself. I definitely disagree with that, because if you really don't care about yourself a whole lot, then you're really not going to care about others a whole lot. It goes back to like Matthew 7:12. You do unto others as you have them do unto you. Like if you're going to treat yourself like crap, you're more than likely going to treat other people like crap,
Right.
It's just an exhausting way to live.
Yeah. I agree with you on that as well, because like you can't just like love your spouse. It's kind of like you guys both love each other like as much as you guys say each other, or not even if you guys don't communicate at all. Like you can either show it verbally or non-verbally, how you ever the family communicates, and it's not really a way that you could express that you love your spouse more than you love yourself either. So it's kind of hard to like describe that like feeling of love for your spouse or your kids as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that, because like you said, if you don't take care of yourself and you put all your care in somebody else, it's gonna show, definitely. Because I mean, at the end of the day, like you're not like you're not gonna be by them every single second of the day. Like you're gonna have to take care of yourself, make sure
Right.
you're healthy. You're gonna have to make sure you're happy also. You can't just always like care for other people, because if so, like then you're relying on somebody to take care of you.
Right.
But always is just not the case. Like some people just, I don't know, you just have to find time to do what you like to do, what you need to do for yourself, because if you're not happy at the end of the day, it's not going to matter um if you show that you're happy for them. They're going to know that you're not happy for yourself, which is
Right.
just make conflict right there.
Yeah.
All right. Question 10. Generally speaking, technology and changing cultural values are deteriorating the quality of family today. I'm gonna have to say I I'm gonna say I agree with this a little bit, only because when it comes to when we're at like, or me, when I see sometimes and I'm out with my family and we're eating somewhere, or like we're going to a movie, and you see all these kids and also teens and adults on their phones or iPads or on something, instead of enjoying the time with their family and enjoying the just the place that they're at.
Right.
Them being glued to their phone on Facebook, Instagram, or like playing a game on their phone, when they could be making memories and like just enjoying the time that they have with their family, because like tomorrow's not promised. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, because technology nowadays is everywhere. Like my phone I take it everywhere. I try to, TVs are everywhere as well. I pretty much stay home and do homework on my computer. That's what I'm doing at the moment, especially. And even on my breaks, I'm on video games, like as most people do. And it definitely affects it, because your values do change, as especially when it comes to like news as well. Like you're on your phone and you like see an article or a tweet or a Instagram post about especially like the mass shootings happening now, that are frequently happening too. it affects your view on like society or like what's happening. Like it gives a kind of a fear, and it's especially now that the fear with COVID or different aspects that are changing affects your like family's future, and it could affect the right now as well when you're looking at the at your family at the moment, because it'll definitely affects my mom as an example, because she views like the news pretty much every day, and it
Yeah.
like she mentions to me stuff and how she tries to correct me if I'm especially doing that at the moment with like COVID and stuff like that with jobs. She tries to help me out, like trying to like correct me on what I should do and not. So it definitely like affects your family's views and values of culture as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of like dinner stuff, like you were talking about how you sit with your family and stuff like that. I remember one time I was we went out to a fancy restaurant, which we don't do very often. I'm over here looking at my phone, looking at stupid vines and memes and stuff like that, and like my sister's like right next to me. Instead of just showing her, I just send it to her. I just
Right.
screenshot.
Right.
Like, are you serious? Literally like 2 inches from me. I could just be like, hey, look at this. So it definitely deteriorates quality family time and communication.
Yeah.
But it also does, help connect us. Our
Yeah.
phones part. It's like, hey, my mom lives like 2.5 hours. I don't have to drive 2.5 hours to go and just see her. I can, I can Zoom call her. I can call her and be like, hey, what's up? So it definitely does. It does deteriorate it. But there's also a sense of, hey, it also helps us bring us together, helps us connect to each other.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
can be a form of communication, just to have that communication in a family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great points, actually. That was a great point.
Yeah.
For number 11, there is one best approach or set of rules and principles that will ensure an effective functioning family. There aren't really. I'm gonna have to disagree, because there's like there's rules I guess you could follow, but they're not like key to a healthy relationship or a functioning relationship with like your family members. It kind of just happens most of the time. I mean, you could use that as a guide, but that's pretty much it. You don't have they don't have to become rules or laws or principles that you have to follow, as every family is different, and every person has different personalities that kind of like makes them unique, so it's kind of hard to like set rules or principles that function in every family. So it's kind of difficult to say that. So I might have to disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you right there. With especially like at young ages and stuff, when kids are forced or like with a set of rules and stuff, it makes them want to do the opposite, or
Right.
like something, and makes them do the opposite. And if anybody's really forced to do something, or like just a rule or force to do something, they're most likely are gonna learn to like go away from it or separate it. And that's what I
Right.
see. I know a good amount of friends and stuff that had very like strict parents, and I know the parents viewed like it was for the best of them, like they wanted what's best for their son or daughter. But at the end of the day, it kind of like pushed them away a little bit
Right.
from parents, of like they weren't able to do what they want, or like what they needed to do sometimes. But I wouldn't say like one set of rules or principles will ensure, definitely that word in that question, ensure an effective functioning family.
Right.
It was only help some, like in some cases, yeah, some rules and principles will help a family, but not every family is the same. And I don't think it's just one set of rules will make sure every family is perfect.
Right.
Yeah, about what I was saying, that word ensure, because I originally I was going to say disagree, and which I actually do now that I'm looking at it, like the word ensure. But I think if it did not have the word ensure, I think I could actually agree with it, because I mean, from a human perspective, there isn't a good approach that will have that will have an effectively functioning family. But, if you look at it from, we have the Bible, God's, giant handbook for us to, live our lives,
Yeah.
He even describes out how a family should function and how it plays a huge role in the church.
Yeah.
But even reading the Bible, it doesn't ensure that we'll have an effectively functioning family. It'll be a functioning family and we do our best, but it
Right.
goes back, hey, we all fall short of the glory of God and we are all sinners. So
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely have to disagree with that question there.
Yeah, because it said ensure, it kind of meant like it was a law. If it didn't have ensure, it would have been more of a guide, pretty much, as I said.
Yeah.
And it would have been like 100% agree. But since it put ensure, it's like a law that you have to follow, and it's not really beneficial for every family. I mean, it can help families, like if they want to put a framework, but they could just go off to that and not have to follow it at all. And it just all depends on, like, it could be a single family or a nuclear family. It just depends on everybody's perspective on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you.
Okay.